Meghan Markle being furious with the royal family because of the snub that they gave to Harry around his stay at Buckingham Palace.
Talk about the new game that Meghan is playing with the press. It's the same game, but she's dusting it off and playing it again.
New reports suggest Meghan Markle will soon join Prince Harry for the final leg of his UK tour.
Harry finally meets King Charles. What happened behind closed doors changes everything. Nobody saw this coming. Just days earlier, Harry was told there was no room for him. Then he lost one of the biggest court battles of his life. Most people thought any chance of reconciliation was over. But then, something changed. A private meeting suddenly happened. The entire family was reportedly welcomed to Highgrove. William was nowhere to be seen. And now, royal watchers are asking one question. What really happened behind those closed doors? And why is this meeting dividing the royal family more than ever? Because when you connect every piece of this story, the ending changes everything.
Meghan is playing this game. This just came out at the time of this recording. Meghan Markle, Prince Archie, Princess Lily will travel to the UK this week.
It started with a bed that got made up and then quietly unmade. Before Harry ever set foot back in Britain this month, insiders say Buckingham Palace made him an offer nobody expected. A room, a place to stay right there at the palace for the length of his visit. And by most accounts, Harry said yes. Then, just as fast, the offer disappeared.
Every time Harry steps back onto UK soil, the same message seems to come through loud and clear that the royal family has moved on. They are done.
Sources close to the family say the invitation was pulled back after what's being described only as consultation with the king. No public explanation, no statement laying out why a door that had just opened suddenly closed again. Reports suggest the timing had something to do with a security decision out of the Home Office, one that left Harry scrambling to arrange his own protection just days before he was due to land. Whatever the real reason, the result was the same. Harry ended up staying somewhere else entirely, and the question of whether he would even cross paths with his father was once again completely up in the air.
Is not trying to make Harry's life any easier to have a relationship with his family, because let me tell you, Meghan's not trying to have a relationship with her own father.
For a family that insiders say communicates more through gestures than conversations, this was a loud one. A grown man, a prince, offered a spare room by his own father's house, only to have it quietly taken away before he'd even packed his bags. And whatever was behind that decision, it happened at the exact same time as something much bigger, something that was about to make reconciliation look almost impossible. That bigger thing wasn't a rumor. It was a judge, a courtroom, and a verdict that landed like a gut punch.
The normally serene and calm King Charles lost his temper and banned his second son from staying at Buckingham Palace.
Just 2 days before the reunion everyone would later be talking about, Harry stood in the middle of one of the largest legal battles of his life, and he lost. The case was against the publisher of the Daily Mail, and it had been years in the making. Harry and several other well-known claimants had accused the paper of using private investigators, phone taps, and other unlawful methods to dig into their lives. The judge didn't just rule against him. He said the claimants had failed to prove what they were alleging, even called some of the arguments a stretch too far.
His takeaway was Charlotte revealing that Harry and Meghan were the source of leaking the meeting between Harry's official team and King Charles's team.
Harry didn't take it quietly. In a public statement, he called the outcome a whitewash. He said he came looking for justice and accountability and got neither. Strong words, and by most accounts, not the kind a working royal family member is supposed to use about the British court system.
We saw those photos in the Daily Mail about the royal reconciliation that was taking place. And then she says that Harry's team then went to the Telegraph and accused the palace of leaking it.
So, picture where things stood. A son who had just publicly torched the credibility of a UK court, a legal defeat splashed across every front page, and a security dispute with his own country country's government still unresolved in the background. By almost every measure, this was the worst possible week for a father and son to find their way back to each other. And yet, only a few days later, the gates at Highgrove House opened anyway. Not for a quiet coffee, not for Harry alone, for the whole family. That's the detail that should stop you in your tracks. Not a quiet handshake between son and father, not a 5-minute hallway moment squeezed between engagements. According to multiple reports, King Charles and Queen Camilla welcomed Harry, Meghan, and both of their children through the gates of Highgrove House, the king's private countryside estate in Gloucestershire.
Prince Harry's choice for whitewashing Tic Tacs establishes trust and freshens breath. That is so funny.
This wasn't a photo call, and it wasn't announced ahead of time. Those close to the situation described it only as a private family occasion, a phrase that tells you exactly how far the palace wanted this kept from cameras. Think about what that actually took. Just 2 days earlier, the king's own son had called a British court a whitewash in a public statement. Just days before that, a room offered at the palace had been pulled back without explanation. And somehow, none of it stopped Charles from opening his private home to the very people who had caused him one of the most awkward weeks in recent royal memory. That's not a small gesture. That's a king choosing his son and grandchildren over the headlines, over the backlash, over everything that had just played out in public.
Reunion that King Charles has said that he is open to, one he's even hoping for. He hasn't seen.
So why now? After 4 years of near silence between these two branches of the same family, why did this particular week become the one where the door finally opened? Because buried in that answer is something even bigger. The last time Charles stood in front of these two children, they were barely old enough to know who he was. That's not an exaggeration. It's the actual timeline. The last time Charles saw both children together was back in 2022, during the celebrations for the late Queen's Platinum Jubilee. Back then, Archie was just a toddler and Lilibet was still a baby, brought over for a brief visit most people barely remember happening. Since then, nothing. No shared holidays, no birthdays together.
But guess who he's calling to come cover Invictus? Guess who he desperately needs standing outside of these events? He needs the media. I mean, don't bite the hand that feeds you, bro.
4 full years where a king and his own children existed as strangers, separated by an ocean. Now, those same kids are 7 and 5, old enough this time to actually hold on to the memory, old enough to ask questions afterward, to recognize a face in a photo, to understand that the man they call grandpa runs an entire country. Friends of the family have said that children have been raised knowing almost nothing about their royal side, treated instead like any other kid growing up in California. If that's true, this meeting wasn't just a reunion for Charles. It may have been the first time these two children got a real look at where they actually come from. For a king reportedly dealing with serious health concerns behind the scenes, getting that moment back mattered. Sources say he'd been hoping for this for a long time, and age was never on his side. But here's what makes this whole picture strange. While one branch of this family was finally closing a 4-year gap, the other branch, the one that's been standing beside Charles every single week, wasn't in the room at all. The son who did know him, who has stood beside him at almost every public event this year, wasn't anywhere near Highgrove that day. Prince William was not part of this reunion. Not in the background, not stopping by after, nowhere in any report about that weekend. By multiple accounts, the brothers still are not speaking, and William is said to have wanted no part in whatever was happening at his estate. While Harry and Meghan were reportedly being welcomed in with their children, William and Catherine were out doing the job they've done all year, showing up, representing the crown, putting in the hours that never make headlines the way a secret reunion does. And that's exactly where a lot of viewers start to feel something shift. Because from the outside, this looks like the son who left, who wrote a memoir dragging his own family through the mud, who just called a UK court a whitewash days earlier, still gets welcomed home with open arms. Meanwhile, the son who stayed, who never walked away, who's been standing next to his father through every single public appearance, gets left out of the one moment that might have mattered mattered most. Some are calling it exactly what it looks like, a slap in the face to William and Catherine. And that feeling, that sense of one brother constantly showing up while the other one gets welcomed back without any of the work, is about to run straight into a much bigger question. Because Harry and Meghan are not the only ones who've been kept outside this family for years. There's another grandparent who has been waiting even longer than Charles did, and who still hasn't gotten his invitation. That grandparent is Thomas Markle, and his wait has lasted a lot longer than 4 years. Meghan's own father has never met Archie or Lilibet. Not once. Not at a birthday, not over a video call, not at any point since they were born. He said publicly he won't go to court to force a meeting, that he'd rather wait until his daughter is ready to bring them to him. But he's also said the kids are being deprived of a grandparent who wants to know them, and that word alone tells you how much this has worn on him over the years. So while Charles finally got his moment at Highgrove, there's another grandfather sitting in the same story who still hasn't, and by his own account, might never. And the timing of who did get let in hasn't gone unnoticed either. A recent UK poll found the majority, close to 6 in 10 people, said the king should not meet these grandchildren, that too much has already happened. Some insiders have gone further, suggesting that bringing Archie and Lilibet along wasn't only about family. With Meghan's own approval ratings sitting low across Britain, one source called this whole visit a high-risk move she had little choice but to make. The theory goes that a quiet, private moment with the kids does something no interview or statement ever could. It softens a public mood that's been cold for years.
To reposition his father in the evil villain role, and he's using the grandchildren to try to garner sympathy from people. And you know what?
Add in the security dispute Harry's still fighting with his own government, the charity stop he made right after for children who lost a parent in service, and the countdown event for the Invictus Games happening the same week, and you start to see how crowded this one trip really was. But none of that explains the frustration building around Charles himself, a king some fans think just keeps getting used. A king who keeps getting used. That's the frustration a lot of British fans can't shake right now. And it's aimed at Charles just as much as it is at Harry. People are asking why a man dealing with serious health concerns, a man who's supposed to be protected and cared for, keeps opening the door for a son who publicly humiliated the family, called a UK court a whitewash, and still hasn't confirmed whether he's sorry for any of it. One commentator put it plainly, saying Charles is being used as a political pawn, and some fans agree completely. Every time that door opens without any real accountability on the other side, it starts to feel like Harry learns there are no consequences at all. So what actually changes now? Nothing about Christmas is confirmed. William still isn't speaking to his brother. Thomas Markle still hasn't met his own grandchildren, and the British public remains split almost right down the middle on whether any of this should have happened in the first place. What we do know is that a king let his youngest son back into his private life in the same week that son publicly tore into the UK justice system. Whether that was forgiveness, desperation, or something else entirely depends on who you ask. And that, Jonas, might be the real story here. Not whether Harry met his father, but what it cost everyone else around him for that meeting to happen. So here's my question for you. Was this a real step toward healing this family? Or did Harry and Meghan just get away with it again? Drop your honest answer in the comments. I read every single one. I'm Jane Expose, and as always, I'll be right here waiting for you with the next update the moment it drops.